Good morning and welcome everyone to the Moneycontrol live stream. You're watching the opening bell and I'm your host Nickey Mirchandani. While markets look set for a positive start, will intraday volatility catch up? Remains to be seen. SGX Nifty at this point of time is indicating a mildly positive start for the broader index in India. US stock futures, Asian Pacific shares, they're all inching up and they're up as the banking fears to an extent have eased up. Silicon Valley Bank's said deal lifts Wall Street on Monday. First Citizen Bank will buy in large parts of Silicon Valley Bank at a discount. Well, in terms of FII, it's the same story there. The sold shares worth around 890 odd crore. But the good part is that the selling every day, the amount seems to be shrinking a little bit. And for DIIs, they have purchased shares worth around 1,808 odd crore on March 27. But with that, let us get going and discuss some stocks and strategies today with Pritesh Mehta, the Senior Vice President, Research at Securities. Good morning there.
Good morning, Nickey.
Pritesh, the market returned to positive territory on March 27 for the first time in the last 3 consecutive sessions. But overall, it was completely a range-bound and a volatile trade. What can be expected now from Nifty 50?
I think, we are in for a painful period. If you look at the recent peak, short-term peaks of 14th and 15th March and 22nd March, it is around 70,250. And on downside, we are holding on to the cluster of support place around 6,900. So when we keep this into perspective, we are likely to continue this consolidation, this range-bound movement. So I think the painful period is going to continue. But rather than focusing more on the index, we need to identify how the leadership or how the index stocks are performing. So what we have done, we have created a customized top 10 index of Nifty. It means we take into consideration the top 10 stocks, highly weighted stocks of the Nifty, and we try to form a trend where it is going to be. So right now it is holding on to support of 2-year mean and reversing. So once this index, our customer index gets momentum and starts moving higher, that would be the signal that market is trying to move higher. So I think in the next couple of days, the trend would get much clarity going forward.
All right, Pritesh, what do you think about the Bank Nifty index right now? It's stuck between that broad range of 39,000 and 40,000 level. Do you think a break on the either side will have trending moves? And if yes, what's the immediate support and resistance level that you're looking at for Bank Nifty?
Yes. So when we talk about Bank Nifty, we need to look at a couple of parameters. The first one is banks are holding on to the lows which were created last week, on 16th of March. So it is trading well above it. Second is that since our customized Nifty top 10 index is trading above the support zone. So once that gets into momentum, I'm expecting banks to do well. So as long as 38,600 has been held on Bank Nifty, possibilities are that in next few weeks, we might see Bank Nifty moving towards 41,500 levels also. So there is more room on the upside to play on the banks.
All right, Pritesh, I would want to understand from you, there is a news flow around Paytm. It's almost 1/3 now in terms of the price from the listing levels, right? Your view on Paytm and 3 profitable bets for the viewers out there.
Well, now when we look at the new age technology companies or the newly listed companies, what we have created a customized index tracking the stocks. And if you look at my customized index, it is moving lower. It is trading below multiple mean support zone. So I'm not so keen on this particular counter. The stability would be missing. Yes, we could see an odd bounce here and there, but to talk about a big runner from here on, I'm not a big, I'm not convinced by the recent move in this counter. Rather than, we should be focusing on stocks or sectors which are showing strength. So let me move into that. So cement space looks very convincing. My customized cement index has given a breakout on the upside. So basically something like Ramco Cement and Ultratech Cement, they are the 2 large heavyweight, the 2 bets from the cement space. Ramco, I'm expecting an up of 50%. And for Ultratech Cement, now when we look at the entire cement basket and in fact entire large cap category of stock within Nifty, this is the one which is showing strength. It is moving higher, it is consolidating at the top, which we can term as a bullish consolidation. There is a headway room towards 8,200 levels on the upside. So these particular stock can do well.
All right, that's the idea coming in on that one, the too profitable bet. But let's address the top movers of the day. In bunch of stocks that we'll be addressing would include something in the like of infra stocks. Sugar themed, also do keep an eye out on that one. Vedanta, of course, Kalyan Jewellers, there's a block deal out there. Emami, Aditya Birla Capital. Also do bear in mind the fact that there's a liquidity event coming in. Nifty indices rejig is on 29 March. That is tomorrow, and you expect some amount of inflows coming on that one. But first, let's talk about Kalyan Jewellers, where Warburg Pincus has offered in 2.5% stake in the company, and these shares have been offered at a floor price of around 110 rupees per share, which is almost 7.5% discount as compared to the price that the company has, the stock has registered in the previous closing. Warburg Pincus has overall he has 26% stake in the company as of the December 2022 shareholding pattern. Emami, as per the plan which has been now laid out, the board has approved a buyback of around 186 crore via open market. Now the buyback price is around 450 per share, which is a 29% premium as compared to the current market price. The record date is April 12, so do keep an eye out on this one. It's a positive development coming in overall for Emami, given that it's a significant premium that we're looking at. Aditya Birla Capital, pretty transactional, but the news has been there. Just the approvals have come in because the board has approved for stake sale of around 50% in Aditya Birla Insurance Brokers. This business has been sold to Edme Services, which is a part of Samara Capital Group. The transaction is expected to be completed within 120 to 180 odd days. Vedanta, that's another one on our radar today. The board meeting to consider fifth interim dividend, that's today. The expectation is around that 19-20 rupees per share kind of reference. And if you talk about that, back in Feb 2023, the company gave out a dividend for around 12 rupees per share. 29th November gave a dividend around 17 rupees per share. Back in July 19, and in 6th May 31 rupees per share. So overall, if you look at the quantum, it's not really very high, but it's still in line with what the company has been doing thus far. In terms of HDFC, there is a development out there ahead of the merger with the bank. They're planning to raise some funds to an extent around 57,000, beg your pardon, odd crore. In terms of they're going to be raising these funds through private placement ahead of the merger with the HDFC Bank, and this is going to be through NCDs. This is the second major fundraising which has been announced by HDFC in the last 2 months. So do keep an eye out on this one as well. Well, we're also looking at bunch of infra names now. First is the PNC Infra, which is declared as the lowest bidder for MORTH highway project, and this is the project is typically for a hybrid annuity mode, and for a bid cost of around 819 odd crore. In terms of Dilip Buildcon, that's again a different one where the company has declared as the lowest bidder for the new HAM project, which is again that project is now part of Bharatmala project. It's in Andhra Pradesh, and it's to an extent of around 780. The cost is around 780 odd crore. The tender has been floated by NHAI. So clearly the theme this time around is around those infra names. So there will be no surprise coming in on that one. So these are some of the stocks that we'll be closely be watching in. What will be interesting also will be the flows that come in on account of the rejig of Nifty indices per se. That is going to take place tomorrow. But Pritesh, comment on this one right now. I would want to understand from you, what are you making overall of the IT stocks? Do you see some amount of attractive buy in that segment right now? And if yes, which are the counters that look attractive to you right now?
Now, see, when you look at IT stock, the IT index was a big outperformer in 2021. And thereafter, there was a period of correction that we have seen recently. But now, in last 4 months, we have seen good comeback by the IT names. But from here on, if you look at the ratio of IT versus Nifty, it is moving low from the resistance zone. So I think there is a possibility that IT index might come back to a 26,800 level, 27,900 levels before starting another round of a move. So from here on, we should wait and watch for the action in IT space rather than getting into and buy the stocks.
All right. So if not for a IT space, then at this point of time, which are the indices that you are looking at, and within that, which counters would you prefer?
See, we need to understand the outperformance and underperformance. And if you look at the recent outperformers, surprisingly, it has been pharma. It has been a long forgotten space, but recently it is. If you look at the structure, if you look at the ratio of pharma versus Nifty, it has been moving higher. It came close to the pre-COVID lows, and that from that point onwards, it is bouncing back. So the action definitely in the pharma space. When you look within the counters, within this basket, Oro Pharma looks very interesting. I can see a pattern of bullish anchor column. There are a follow through coming in, bullish shutter breakouts on point figure chart. So for this particular counter, Oro Pharma, I'm expecting a rally towards 575.80. And second one is Cipla. Now Cipla is coming back to the lows of Feb 2022 and bouncing back. So I think there is more room for Cipla to catch up on the upside. So a rally towards 980, 990 is possible in Cipla.
All right, Pritesh, we're just going to quickly, address the market opening and then come back to you for more. There has been a pretty much, IT basket has pretty much been an underperformer ever since there's this whole concern around that US banking crisis. There's been a rejig which has been seen at the top level, but what is standing up and doing well in trade is power stocks right now. They have been outperforming, but some amount of lackluster trend which has been noticed thus far. But let's address the market opening for you first, just to see that we are in green for the second consecutive session. Now we're holding up, Nifty 50 is holding up around that 17,000 odd mark with gains of around 0.3%. Sensex, we're looking at gains of around 0.3% out there. So it is in line with what the globe has been doing, or rather SGX Nifty has been suggesting, mid-cap 100 index. Now the broader index also, a bit of underperformance as compared to the larger counterparts, but nevertheless, there are gains coming in, slender gains to an extent of around 0.1% as compared to what we've seen for the large cap index, 0.3% of a gain out there. If you talk about the Bank Nifty index, that's again a crucial one. Of course, metal index has been holding up in green, more than 0.5% on that one. But Bank Nifty index, that's the one that we need to watch out for ahead of the metal and the IT stocks. That index is also doing well. We're seeing 0.2% of a gains coming in for Bank Nifty. So clearly the support right now is being lent by Bank Nifty index, which is holding up the head above the water by gains of around 0.2% out there. In terms of metal, in terms of IT, pharma seems attractive on the charts, but hasn't really opened up too well. 0.2% gone on this one. FMCG basket, that's another defensive space out there, but that is holding up for you, 0.2% on that one. Realty index has been an underperformer, but has been catching up with the traction of late. 0.5% on that one, gains coming in on that one. So that's one counter that we're looking at, or the index rather we're looking at. Infra, we addressed about the big wins, right? Nifty Infra Index, 0.1% on that one. Of course, we can also look at something like a Vedanta, Kalyan Jewellers, apart from the host of infra that we're looking at. Before that, let's address the top gainers and the top losers that we have up on the screen, just to understand how the market sentiment overall is faring. And advanced declines at this point of time, we have 27 advances versus 22 declines. Hindalco, M&M and HCL Tech, these are the top gainers that we have. UPL, ICICI Bank and Wipro, these are some of the top gainers on our list that we have this morning. If you talk about the top losers, because market breadth at this point of time has been somewhat evenly divided, we're looking at ONGC, BPCL and Adani Ports. These are the top three losers that we have on our list right now. But right now, if you look at the market breadth, seems to be fairly divided between advances and declines at this point of time. Divi's Lab, Tech Mahindra and Sun Pharma. These are some of the other names. Okay, the list has been advanced declines is now supporting in the favor of advances. 36 advances as compared to 14 declines out there. So the momentum is coming probably more in the favor now, even in terms of the market breadth is more favored towards the advances at this point of time. But let's also look at how Vedanta is stacking up, because it's coming up with an interim dividend, right? That's the fifth interim dividend that we're looking at overall for Vedanta. Apart from that, we should also pull up something like an RIL just to see if we are seeing some amount of support coming in on that one. 0.2% coming in for Vedanta. That's clearly some amount of positive momentum building up. Reliance is the other one which is right now contributing overall to the market's upwards momentum, along with the Bank Nifty index, 2,246 odd levels. So it's holding comfortably around that 2,200 mark. You know, there have been a couple of brokerages which have come out and have suggested that RIL at this point of time is a very compelling buy. Apart from that, if you could also pull up something like Kalyan Jewellers and block deal that was supposed to happen. Apart from that, Emami, where, you know, there is this whole buyback which has come through, 186 crore odd buyback there. Well, it's indicating the block deal has taken place probably or is about to. We're seeing that, you know, the screen capturing all of that. It's an 8% downtick coming in on that one. Emami, because it's a 29% amount of premium that the buyback price is at, you're seeing the stock gradually inching up with gains of more than 2%, at least in the opening deals right now. Also, we could look at something like infra names, like we rightly looked at, you know, Dilip Buildcon for that matter, and also something in the likes of Ashok Leyland. You know, these are PNC Infra. These are some of the infra baskets that are expected to do well in trade today. And like we suggested, the theme more or less is right now favoring infra stocks. PNC Infra is up for you with gains of more than 4.5% out there. Dilip Buildcon too has been holding up in trade today. But with that, Pritesh, I'm going to toss it back to you and ask you about what do you make out of these infra names per se, something like a PNC Infra, something like a Dilip Buildcon. Do you think there is, you know, these stocks haven't really done too well until now, and it's a pre-election year. Do you think there is more traction coming in on these two names?
I would rather look at Dilip Buildcon right now. It looks interesting. The chart is holding on to multiple support zone, and there is possibility of more room on the upside. For PNC Infra, I think it has underperformed a lot. It has gone down in a very big way, and now it is bouncing back. To term it as a reversal on a long-term chart, it's too early. We need to give it a bit of time. But Dilip Buildcon is the right candidate to look into it to play, you know, on the short-term rally around 10-50%.
How about Vedanta? It's coming up. There is a board meeting for the 5th interim dividend declaration out there. Expectation is around 19 to 20 odd rupees per share. What do you make out of this counter, and what are the levels that people can look at or the traders can look at this point of time?
So for Vedanta, now see, we need to look into the entire metal space, the Nifty Metal Index. Yes, it is volatile. But right now, when we look at the space, which looks very interesting from the metal basket, Vedanta, the Hensing, which looks very compelling, and after that, Hindalco. So rather than, you know, for Vedanta, when it comes to support, it is placed around 260. It is holding above it, but in terms of the upside potential, there are multiple resistance placed around the zone of 289 to 90. So I don't see much of the upside coming in this counter. Rather, I would focus myself on, you know, Zinc and Hindalco.
All right, Hindustan Zinc and Hindalco are the recommendations which are coming in from Pritesh Mehta when it comes to the metal basket per se. But Pritesh, we're going to leave it at that. And thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking to us this morning.
Always a pleasure. Thanks.
All right, it's that part of the time where we address the fundamental story. Been a lot cooking up in the globe. There have been global macro cues which are also indicating, you know, markets have been range bound, themes that have been setting up. But let's actually bring in our guest, Anil Rigo, who is the founder and CEO of the Right Horizons. Good morning there, Anil.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, good morning. All right, Anil, I'm going to start off by asking you about your assessment overall of the IT space. Would you be cautious about it, given that, you know, global cues at this point of time seem to be settling down? There seems to be a concern laying out there when it comes to the banking crisis. Things are falling out in place, maybe, you know, falling in place gradually. Do you think it's the right time to go get IT stocks out there at this point of time with the given valuations?
Yes, so I have been a little negative on the US markets. In fact, it's a slightly longer term view, almost like a decade or two. So, and the US is the largest customer for IT. From that standpoint, yes, definitely, you know, one is a little concerned about, you know, IT, and I think in this phase of the market, IT in the medium to long term will sort of underperform. That said and done, I think global IT, especially the Nasdaq, had fallen very sharply, and sort of it is now sort of I would think that it stayed where it has not gone down further, bottomed out, possibly in the shorter term. So that is something which is sort of positive. So maybe a little bit of counter rallies are always there, after a sharp down cycle. And I think for Indian IT services companies, yes, I see that over the next year or two, customers getting more and more conservative and pushing for better productivity rates, etc., as sort of they come under pressure, and because they are facing higher interest rates and other headwinds out there. So from that standpoint, yes, from a medium-term view, I think that IT is not going to be the best performing sector. I would choose other sectors over IT. But in the shorter term, I think sometimes things are overdone. Things sort of get to certain levels where hopefully we don't continue to see the downsides from where they are. But because they've already fallen, I think we should end up seeing sort of a counter rally in line possibly with a sort of broader, say, market rise both in India and the US.
Anil, let's also chat about power stocks. They've seemed to be the safest bets that we have seen in the market. But if you look at how the trend has been stacking up over the last few days, they've also given up. The reforms, the rather game-changing distribution reforms, that has been on the back burner now till May 2024 election. It was touted to be a multi-year story, but this year it looks like it's going to be some amount of slowdown, which is expected to come for these stocks. How are you looking at the sector overall? What's your assessment?
Yeah, actually, see, sometimes I think in terms of fund markets and prices, it's about at times markets go much further, right? So you found power stocks do very, very well for a period of time, and so I would say it's not unusual, right? So the second is about when, say, there are new initiatives, there are new regulations, all of it, there's an immediate, say, market re-rating that happens. And then after some time, people realize that this is something that will, happen over a few years, right? So if we think that, even if everything is passed, right, it takes that much of time for, it on the ground to actually, happen. So that is something which, I think one sort of keeps in mind. So I'm not definitely, I'm not too perturbed, about the power sector and it's sort of giving off. I think will probably give buying opportunities out there. Okay, because I think in this space, domestic themes I think will do far better. So power definitely will be sort of one of them. And so as we go forward, yes, I think we will get the benefits of the reforms and all of those that come in and see longer term gains as well. But so I'm reasonably positive and maybe in a phased manner continue to sort of buy into the sector and stocks in the sector.
All right. Mr. Rigo, I also want to understand your view coming in on the overall banking space, Indian banking space, and IndusInd Bank in specific. Why, we'll get on to this, but entirely you've seen that crisis playing out overall when it comes to the mid-sized banks in the US. Do you think any of that spillover effect could have been witnessed even in the banking sector, or it's well insulated? Most of the experts suggested it's well insulated right now and well regulated, so it's really not a worry. But BofA Securities today suggested that IndusInd Bank is probably the best bet that they have overall in the mid-cap space that they would prefer, which suggests a 50% upside from the levels that they have registered thus far. And it's no longer that potential turnaround story. The hard part is being done. And now the results are going to be apparently there in terms of the financials and the performance. What do you make out of it?
Yeah, so first of all, let me cover it from 2 points. One is, let's say, from the global side, right? So, and the whole banking crisis that sort of the US is seeing in some of the regional banks and SVB and stuff like that, right? So, so something that again, because I'm negative on the US, okay, I think there's more pain to come, but I don't see a crisis-like situation. It is I think from here, the thought is, it will be sort of elongated and it will be a painful phase because the after effects of, higher interest rates will show over a period of time. And there will definitely be, a few borrowers who are not able to, repay because of the higher interest rates. Right. So they would have computed various things and put that into their P&L balance sheet, business plan, etc., and that sort of changes. So that's the first part. So I think at the same time, it's interesting, and because I look at other aspects, like I look at interest rates also in the US, not only here. So when you look at interest rates in the US, interestingly, okay, it is not as negative. Okay, so from that standpoint, one actually sees that it's not showing up in the US itself, because if we saw a crisis, I think interest rates in the US should have spiked up. At least, I'm talking about interest rates, I'm talking about the yields, right? So one is what the Fed does, and secondly is what the market looks at it and what are the yields. Because market sometimes is predictive, right? So I'm not seeing too much of that. So some of the underlying factors are getting me to feel that, I don't think we are going to see too much more in terms of a crisis type of situation. Pain will sort of continue, and that may not last for some more time. So that's about Indian banks. I think we saw a bit of a deleveraging cycle in the past decade, and we saw a number of defaults and write-offs and stuff like that happened. And the banks also saw the impacts whenever NPAs went up. And so that has sort of come back to cleaner balance sheets. And I think we'll probably see a leveraging cycle as we go forward, right? So that is something which I believe, is going to play out. And I'm in that way positive about banks and reasonably bullish about them sort of in the medium to long term.
All right. Okay, that's the word. But let's discuss about the less discussed sector. But at one point of time was investors darling out there. Sugar stocks. Maharashtra state is expected to produce less sugar, as mills are expected to close early to halt production in the first week of April, which is almost 2 months earlier as compared to the last year. Now the speculation is that this might just impact the exports from the country. How are you looking at this space, and overall, if at all you find that attractive, within the category, what do you like?
Yes, so definitely I think sugar stocks are seeing multiple parameters moving around, right? So one part of it is the ethanol and the mandate for the government to sort of increase adding it to sort of petrol to sort of save on forex, etc., and also from an eco point. So I think there is a great positive trigger. It's slightly longer term, and I think that is something that was there to last. Yes, in the short term, you have in between, like what we are saying, right? Exports can get impacted and stuff. But so what I believe it's a bit of a shorter term one. I think one also needs to see, how the next season comes in. So unfortunately, with the sugar, it also depends on rains. What is the growth in the product in the agri side of it, and how it is grown, and so there are also other triggers out there, and so from that standpoint, yes, there sectors like sugar will see a lot more volatility. So for investors who maybe are a little more risk taking, right? I think one can in a maybe slightly smaller percentage look at sugar stocks. Okay, I would ideally go for some of the best names there, because it's a very volatile sector, right? So I think just go for the best in class.
When you say the best names out there, are you talking about in terms of the top market capitalization, something like a Balrampur Chini for that matter? Do you think something like that fascinates you? And also let's talk about the infra space overall.
Yeah, so definitely stocks like what you mentioned. I like to avoid taking stock names. Yes, coming back to the infra sector, yes, in this phase, I think government attention has been around the infra side, and this is probably the capital goods, infra, etc. I think should do reasonably well. Of course, they have the issue of higher interest rates over the recent few months. So that's going to be a bit of a dampener for infrastructure stocks and in the infrastructure sector. But I think just from the mere spending by the government, and also I'm also hoping that interest rates sort of settle down from the very high levels that we had seen. Okay, so if we see some of that settling down, I think infra is going to do well. And if the interest rates settle down more, that will be a even larger positive trigger. But just from the spending and the whole focus of the government, it's a election year, etc. So you will see some of those come in at a much larger scale.
All right, Anil, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking to us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, with this, it's a wrap and goodbye from the entire team who puts this piece together. Thank you so much for watching, and please, beg your pardon, and please do put your feedback for us in the comment section below. Follow us on the link at the bottom of your screen. For rest of the updates, stay tuned into moneycontrol.com and Moneycontrol app.